in place. Now, aging in place is also living in place and universal design. Once I start the presentation, I am going to put my video off so you can focus on the slides that I am going to be sharing. I also want to tell you I'm not really in the Bahamas, where you might think that I am with this lovely palm tree next to me. I'm in our showroom in Columbia, Maryland, but in my mind I'm always, at the beach or something. So I do want to invite you to come visit. Our showroom is open by appointment. We also have cooking demonstrations by reservation, and those are amazing with our chef. They're really for your clients, but if you've never been, I welcome you to attend. So please reach out to me directly. I will put my information in the chat box at the end. And just if you need a reservation, an appointment for your client, just reach out to me. And if you have any questions throughout this presentation, please feel free to put it in the chat box. I am going to hold off on all questions until the end, just to make sure we cover everything. You never know if it's coming up in the next slide or anything like that. So please feel free to drop me a note, say hello, ask a question, and I hope you enjoy this presentation, and thanks for joining me virtually. So I'm going to start this presentation, and I hope that you will be learning a lot, and we are going to be talking about aging in place. So let's get started here. For NARI, you will be self-reporting if you do need the CEU credit, and if you don't, you'll just be learning a lot. Today, this course is really about educating architects, designers, contractors, installers about specifying luxury kitchens for aging in place, also known as living in place. There is a great need for kitchens with universal design, which are accessible for the greatest number of users, no matter what their ability or disability. And now more than ever, we need to consider the health and well-being of all of our clients. The percentage of the population over 65 is fast growing, and the vast majority of people want to stay in their homes as they age, but most homes are inadequate when it comes to safety and accessibility for this type of population. And that's where you come in, the trade professional. We're going to talk about that throughout the presentation, where this course will describe general design considerations to make a luxury kitchen suitable for all users, and indicating which features in cooking and refrigeration appliances are safe and accessible. So here are the learning objectives. We're going to talk about examining the principles of universal design for aging in place when specifying accessible features for homeowners. We're going to talk about design considerations, and we're going to include talking about different parameters for turning radius, areas for people in wheelchairs, adequate lighting, placement of cabinetry. We're going to talk about standards for the appliances in the kitchen to accommodate different limitations for the homeowners, occupants, and their guests. And then lastly, we're going to talk about different solutions for incorporating safety features, such as soft close drawers for aging hands and open spaces for occupants in wheelchairs in the kitchen for aging in place. So let's get started on the first objective. So as we age, the ability to stay living in our own home is a major desire and a major concern. According to an AARP survey, more than 90% of people over the age of 65 indicate that they would prefer to stay in their current residence as long as possible. Furthermore, 4 out of 5 people in that age bracket believe that their current residence is where they will always live. A recent Department of Housing and Urban Development study shows that more than 1 million homes with a disabled older resident have unmet structural housing needs, and the problem is growing. So, by the year 2030, The number of Americans aged 50 or over is expected to increase to 132 million people. And most of this growth will be concentrated among those aged 65 and older. The 2000 census reported that 42% of all seniors age 65 and over had some form of disability. And of these, approximately 28% reported having a physical disability. Most homes are not functional for people with the different abilities, and thus there is an increased interest in making homes functional for all. Now, we are going to talk more about the physical challenges, but remember there also can be mental challenges as well. Now, there are many terms for universal design, aging in place. There are many current ways to describe these homes that are user-friendly for those with limited abilities. Accessible, handicapped accessible, personal mobility device accessible, lifelong home, universal design, barrier-free, and disability accessible. Universal design is a common term quoted by architect Ron Mace, who explains it like this: universal design is the design of products and environments to be usable to all people to the greatest extent possible without the need for adaptation or specialized design. And what that means for the high-end kitchen trade professional is to create a kitchen that functions for people with all levels without it looking or feeling institutional. So let's talk about principles of universal design. The Center for Universal Design at North Carolina State University's College of Design offers these principles for universal design. First, equitable use. Basically, it's equal for all. You want to think, is this design useful and marketable to people with all diverse abilities, accessible and appealing to all? Flexible in use. The design accommodates a wide range of individual preferences and abilities. Simple and intuitive. Use of the design is easy to understand regardless of the user's experience, knowledge, language skills, or current concentration level. And that's where I mentioned the mental aspect of this. A lot of people are always thinking about the physical aspect, but if you think about people who have dementia and Alzheimer's, universal design definitely comes into a big part of the design when you're talking to those people as well, which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail in a few minutes. Now, when we are talking about perceptible information, the design will communicate necessary information effective to the user, regardless of impaired vision. Tolerance for error. The design minimizes hazards and the adverse consequences of accidental or unintended actions. Low physical effort. The design can be used efficiently and comfortably and with a minimum of fatigue. And then size and space for approach and use. Appropriate size and space are provided for all heights, sizes, and mobility uses. So, benefits of aging. I'm sure you're all thinking, what's so great about it? There's a lot of great things about growing old. So here we are, we're talking about what is so good about growing old. Sharper mind. It's funny, you might think I might not have a sharper mind because I'm getting older, but you do have less stress maybe on your mind because you're retired, you're happier, you are basically enjoying life to your fullest extent. Research shows that people in their 60s are really happier overall. They're enjoying their time with their family, they're relaxing, but we need to make sure that we are providing that environment in their home that they can enjoy mentally and physically. Now, there's a lot of challenges of aging, and many of these challenges can start even when we're younger. I mean, I definitely have a lot of challenges. Some of these are listed right here. I will talk about that briefly, but we'll touch base here on some of the main challenges of aging: hearing, vision, flexibility, muscle strength, bone strength, balance, and mobility. These can be challenges of all ages, and this is something that we need to consider when we're talking about different ways to upgrade for aging in place. So, who needs aging in place upgrades? Everybody. That's why we also call this universal design. A universal designed home can benefit all ages with any physical and mental limitations. We are talking about homeowners aging, plan to live in the home into their older decades, people who maybe they have aging parents coming to live with them, those who want to accommodate visiting friends who may have physical limitations or different disabilities. So this is a great time to think about, how do we bring this up with our clients? It's not always very easy to bring this up. If a trade professional is hired specifically to design a suitable kitchen for universal design, that makes it easy. However, the homeowners may not even be aware of their future needs or the desire for universal design. And that's where discussion comes into play by you. The designer, the trade professional, the remodeler. You need to start the conversation. And this is going to help benefit you for more work and help benefit the homeowner for what they may not be considering for their future. And how can we bring this up to them in a natural way? There's two different approaches: a discussion about visitability and then a straightforward discussion about aging in place. So let's start with visitability. When you are talking to a homeowner, you want to talk about a few different parts of the home, and you want to think about, the question is to ask your client, would you like your kitchen to function for whomever visits your home? It might be the homeowner, it might be family, it might be friends. According to Wanda Godds, a Florida-based residential interior designer and certified aging in place specialist who teaches CAP certification courses, uses this helpful term visitability because this is where the home is thought of for their visitors. Who's visiting? You're talking about dinner guests, entertaining, and you're talking about having these three basic accommodations. Now, if you're not taking notes, don't worry, this will all be available to you. At least 1 0 clearance entrance into the home is needed. At least 32-inch clearance at all main doors and passageways on the main floor. Though 36-inch openings are better and 42-inch openings are optimal. And at least 1/2 bath on the ground floor, although a full bath is preferred. Now, a straightforward conversation. This might be a little bit more challenging if you just met someone for the first time, but New York-based kitchen designer Susan Sarah says, the direct approach is definitely the way to go. I feel many homeowners would appreciate this as well. And here are just some examples of some questions maybe to ask. How long do you plan on staying in the home? Will the kitchens be used for gathering, entertaining, different, special occasions for different friends and family? And who are the types of people that are visiting? Different ages, different physical limitations. Have you had any changes in your health, anybody in the home? You think about even, we're talking about aging in place. Think about children, think about all ages. Anyone can be in a personal mobility device, which we're going to talk about, which is a wheelchair. And we need to consider how they can enjoy and feel independent in their own home. Talking about different cooking processes and just the overall envision for their future home. Now, if some of you are considering becoming a certified aging in place specialist, you certainly can do that. All details can be found online. There are different programs. NARI has a great one. So you definitely want to look into that and make sure that you are finding out all that is necessary for classes and to become certified. This is a great way to also get new business because more and more in the industry, this is becoming more and more popular. And if you have this, certification, it's only going to help you to get more jobs and more projects. Now, why the focus on luxury kitchens? So here we want to talk about the term universal design and high design are often contradictory. With the constant struggle between form and universal function, form can get lost and the result can look institutional and low budget. You want to make sure that when you are designing for aging in place, it does not have to remove any of the luxury from the project. So you just need to make sure that you're accommodating your homeowner's wishes as usual. Wanda Godds here is quoted saying, "When it's done well, universal design becomes a virtually invisible element to the home." So we are going to move on to our second objective. Now this is where we're going to get into some more numbers. And again, if you want to take notes, feel free to do so. But if not, there's definitely going to be this available to you to refer back to as needed. There are definitely requirements for personal mobility devices. And here are the considerations. Through the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, basically these are guidelines, it's recommendations, such as having a minimum of 60-inch diameter to turn a wheelchair around, a minimum 36-inch wide corridor for a 90-degree turn around a corner. And we're going to move on to some different aspects of the requirements. So when we're talking about the thresholds, you always want to make sure that it's level, barrier-free, between the rooms, between going from the inside of the home to the outside of the home, especially when a kitchen leads to a deck or patio, the thresholds should always be level. When we're talking about pathways, while a wheelchair may be less than typically 30 inches, the pathway should be about 42 to 48 inches to allow for turning. And when we're talking about doors, we want to make sure that all doors in the home should be a minimum of 36 inches wide, although 32 inches is acceptable. Lighting is such a critical part for universal design. And here we want to talk about Janice Kent, who's an architect and the founding president of the Certified Access Specialist Institute. This is also a great resource if you go online. It's the CAS for Certified Access Institute, casinstitute.org for more information. But I want to read this quote. "As we age, we take in less light due to changes in the eye structure, so we need more daytime lighting, more intense or for longer periods in order to compensate. Assisted living homes typically have lower light levels and nursing homes even lower yet, hence a more rapid decline. Studies have shown that when cool daylight levels are increased during the day, residents rapidly respond with improved moods, better health, a lessening of functional limitations, and better sleep." And this is really a great guideline to think about throughout any age, how important lighting is for the health and well-being, for mentally and physically being happy and taking care of oneself. Now, when we're talking about lighting, adequate lighting will include natural light from windows and skylights, under cabinet lighting, task lighting, track lighting with adjustable lamps, allowing for flexibility for all needs. Light switches should be near each entrance to the kitchen and easy to reach inside the kitchen. All outlets should be easily accessible. Rocker type switches are definitely easier to use than flip switches for those with manual dexterity limitations, such as arthritis. Sensor controlled lighting offers another layer of safety. We are definitely seeing more lighting installed also at the toe kick area under base cabinets too. So that might be something to consider. Now, all of this might seem like a lot of lighting options. You don't have to go with all of these options. Some do, or choose what's best for the space, of course. Now, talking about cabinetry. Upper cabinets, especially those that reach all the way to the ceiling, can usually pose a problem and give accessibility difficulties, even if you're fully abled. Eliminating upper cabinets allows space for extra windows and natural light. Open shelves are better for frequently used items than closed-in cabinets. If an occupant or visitor has memory loss or cognitive problems, items can be labeled and stored on open shelves to avoid confusion. And shallow upper cabinets are better to lessen the need for reaching and stretching. Pull-down shelves can be helpful, and turntables help make nearly everything on the shelf more easily accessible. But you could even have this with somebody who has back problems at any age. And I apologize, this was a delay of what I just said. So let's move on to the lower cabinetry. Okay, under the counters. Pull-out shelves definitely are needed, reducing the need to bend and reach in. Storage drawers we're definitely seeing more storage drawers than the doors. It's definitely better for pots and pans, more preferable than the stationary shelves, trying to avoid nesting scenarios. In all cases, we also want to talk about avoiding small knobs that require manual dexterity, making the large D-shaped pulls and handles the best option for accessibility, and light-colored but non-glare cabinets are typically best. Now, when we talk about countertops, just real quick to mention, you definitely want to have a countertop that is easy to maintain, easy for cleaning. Definitely offering a different color for the countertop, contrasting with cabinetry, contrasting with flooring. So if somebody has eyesight limitations, they'll definitely be able to see where the countertop starts and stops. And with various heights, we want to talk about 3 typical heights for counters and work surfaces. There are 3 typical heights, 30 to 32 inches for a seated person. 36 inches is typically a work surface height. 42 to 45 inches for standing work height. Now, this is all relative to the homeowners. If you have people who are shorter or taller, this definitely can change in different height sizes. Definitely want to also recommend that there should be counters and work surfaces at 2 or more different heights. This could allow for different people in the home to have easy access, and definitely if you have someone in a wheelchair, you need to make a lower counter for them versus somebody who's not in one, and they might want to stand next to each other, work together cooking. And just keep in mind, you're basically making it comfortable for all occupants and how they're using this space. Definitely 100% no sharp corners. Try to either have rounded edges because the concern for anyone falling and getting hurt typically happens a great deal. And we're going to talk about flooring in a moment as well. Sinks. Okay, so let's start here. Sinks, it's always funny. I find that this is usually an afterthought for people, and it is the #1 utilized appliance in the kitchen, a sink and a faucet, whether you're washing hands, washing dishes, prepping. This is so important to discuss with the homeowner. We're going to talk about a shallow sink providing several benefits, but if the user has back problems, a shallow sink will decrease the need to bend over to reach the bottom. So it's funny because you have a lot of people who are like, I want the big, deep sink for my big pots and pans, but that may not be great. I know for me personally, I have had lower back problems for many years, and I always wanted a deep sink, and now I could kick myself because it bothers me when I do dishes. So you definitely want to, think about that. Also, if a user has lessened muscle strength or function, the user can lift heavier items easier out of a shallow sink than a deeper one. So a shallow sink could be more functional, and you could always do two, one shallow, one deep. Now, for someone in a wheelchair, whether the person is living in the home or visiting, an extremely helpful adaptation is to remove the bottom shelf and toe kick under the sink to allow space for a wheelchair to roll under. Doors installed on the front improve the look when the roll under function is not needed. A shallow sink with a drain at the back allows for more knee clearance under the sink. And of course, for the safety of the occupant, please cover or insulate sink plumbing to protect the user from burns. Flooring material should definitely also be laid all the way to the wall under the sink. Now, when we go from sinks, we need to talk about faucets. Single lever faucets are great for people with arthritis or weakness in their hands. Small faucet handles are difficult to use and could actually prevent the person from using the sink or wanting to. If they can't grip it, if they can't turn it, not user friendly. Side-mounted faucet. While most faucets are installed typically at the rear of the sink, there's no real reason why the faucet could not be installed on the side. With that configuration, a wheelchair user or a person of short stature could move the faucet more easily and reach it more easily. So that might be something to consider for anyone in this situation. And when we're talking about water filtration for a dispenser within reach, you definitely want to consider this for the ease of use for getting filtered water, maybe on the side again, rather than in the rear for someone who doesn't want to, reach, or they're in a wheelchair, whatever will make it easy and independent for them to get water. Now we're talking about flooring. Flooring, it should be comfortable, easy to maintain and clean, should not be waxed, non-glare. And this is really something we're seeing more and more of, sensor activated floor lighting. So when somebody walks into a room, they are just, it's illuminated and it's easy for them to see. A lot of people, you always hear, when they're older, they fall, break a hip. I know my mother-in-law, that just happened to her, but it's because they can't see. So to have this illumination with a sensor is very, very important to have. And some examples of flooring to consider: polycarbonates, cork, glazed ceramic tile, quarried stone. So let's move on to our third objective, and we are going to talk a little bit more about cooking. So when we're talking about cooking, it is not only a way to maintain independence, but it's also a real pleasurable activity. More and more people nowadays right now are eating more inside the home rather than going out. So more and more we need to make sure that they have a comfortable space to cook and to entertain and to eat for all occupants and any visitors. So let's talk about some different cooking options. When we're talking about universal design, we want to consider the following. When we're talking about cooking surfaces or ranges, the controls should always be large and or easy to operate, typically front mounted. This will eliminate the user from leaning to the back of the cooking surface. Indicators should be easy to read. Contrasting fonts help. Illuminated indicators. Burners should have clear illumination indicating which burners are on. The rack should be able to slide out easily and fully. Self-cleaning. And for someone with a personal mobility device, the cabinet doors under a cooktop could be opened, just like we talked about with the faucet, or the doors and kick plate totally eliminated. Now, typically this is what happens in every home. You want to make sure that there is counter space on either side of a cooking surface that's convenient to place and transfer heavy pots. So we're talking about this for universal design specifically in this course, but it's really important for all homes to have that landing area. Induction cooktops, they really are the safest way to cook, easy to use, easy to clean. They are very energy efficient. They are more energy efficient than electric cooktops. They use about 50% less energy than electric cooktops, and they cook faster than gas cooktops. So this is something to consider in a universal design project. Where if you're not aware of what induction is, it is utilizing pots and pans that are magnetic. If you can stick a magnet to the bottom of the pot or pan, it will work. It is not heating the surface, it is heating the cooking vessel. It is like an instant hot and an instant cool down. And if somebody, has vision challenges, they won't have a lot of issues with this because the surface won't be hot. So there's a lot of great features for cooking with induction to consider when you're talking about universal design. Now, when we're talking about microwave ovens, they should actually be mounted at or below counter height. And instead, a lot of people are usually, having those over the range. That's what they've been used to having. And a lot of times we're talking about someone in a wheelchair or having back issues or anything like that. You want to actually make it more user-friendly and not having them elevated. You want to make sure that it's easy to use, easy to clean, and easy to see. And not all of the microwaves out there have great lighting or control panel or audio tones, and those could be really important for somebody. Another option for the microwave is the microwave drawer. These drawers are really, really helpful, especially for someone in a wheelchair. Imagine the independence that someone could have where they could just roll right up to the microwave drawer, put their food in there to cook, to reheat, and it is at a great safe level. When we're showing this here, I want to point out there is no turntable. So this is amazing because the heat just transfers throughout the cavity. So instead of just even heating up one plate, you could be heating up 4 bowls of soup or 2 small bowls and 2 small plates. This is a great way to heat up multiple items. You're not having to reach up high, you're not having to reach in the back. Very easy to use. And remember, a lot of times people in a wheelchair may not have independence for cooking, but with something like this, they certainly would feel that independence. Now, when it comes to wall ovens, here are some features that are very beneficial to consider. Well-lit interior to prevent ice strain and accidental spills. A large viewing window with bright interior lighting. Self-cleaning. Large well-lit display numbers for the control panel. Double ovens at 2 heights or side by side at the same height, providing the double oven convenience. So this definitely depends on who's using it and how many cooks are in the home. Pull-out racks that glide onto the door and full extension racks. So, these are very helpful for everybody. Now, steam and convection ovens. This is an appliance like having 5 appliances in one. This is a convection oven, a steam oven. You can reheat, you can defrost in a healthy, controlled environment. This is a great appliance to keep food warm without drying food out or changing the consistency or flavors. And this is one small appliance that can be installed at any height. Warming drawers are definitely a good option to have. The number one reason is when you have somebody who's cooking for someone, they can leave the food here for them. You can hide this drawer with cabinetry as shown here, so it looks totally flush into the kitchen cabinetry. This also can be used in a bathroom, great for keeping towels warm. Ventilation is always something that our clients don't think that they need, or they don't have a lot of education about this, and it's up to us to make sure that they do. I want to make sure that you're aware that there's a lot of ventilation products out there that are sensor controlled rather than manual. And this is great for everybody in a universal design. So then the ventilation will just automatically come on as soon as they start to cook. Because let's face it, no matter what our age is, most people don't even use their ventilation appliance, and they should. Accessory cooking modules. This is great because you can design any cooking surface for any of your clients, for any of their needs and wants, whether it's gas, induction, steaming, anything that they need. And if you have multiple cooks, you can have multiple cooking surfaces for these cooks. We are going to move on to our last objective, exploring some more focus on refrigeration options. Now, when we're talking about refrigeration for universal design, we want to make sure that you know that actually the side-by-side option is best, depending on whether you have short people, tall people, seated people. This is going to work for everybody. The doors are more narrow. They swing out less so that it's easier for someone to get around in a mobility device as well. Internally, you want to make sure that there's clear, transparent shelves, easy to see what's inside. And this is another option. Not everybody can do this and make your refrigerator look this amazing and beautiful, but a glass panel on a refrigerator is great for people who are not able to see very well. They can see what's inside very clear. And this will also give extra ease for having to not open the door a couple times. You can just see it and know where it is, and it's very easy to use. Top mount refrigerator with freezer on the bottom also gives better access than a top mount freezer, which we haven't seen that in a very long time. But we want to make sure that that this is going to be in a good universal reach range of 15 inches to 54 inches. And having long continuous door handles will provide multiple points to grip no matter the height of the users. Lighting again, but this is having to do with the refrigeration product, making sure ample lighting such as LEDs inside the refrigerator are in use so that it's easy for anyone with vision impairments to see what they're trying to get out of the refrigerator. Another option, instead of having the water dispensing at the sink, is on the door of a refrigerator, and making sure that it's lighted and that it's easy to use. It's typically at a good height for someone in a mobility device, giving them independence for getting their own beverage. Again, you want to make sure you have that adjacent counter space, that landing area. Again, for all kitchens, this is necessary, you know, whether you're taking food out to start prepping or you just brought the groceries in from the store. You must have good adjacent landing areas for being near cooking and refrigeration appliances. Now, under counter refrigeration, there's a lot of different options with doors and drawers. These are really your best options for anybody in a mobility device. Easy to get to, again, talking about that independence. Now, I do want to bring up some other appliances and features to consider that are really necessary, or just options to think about. Coffee systems built in. Easy for somebody to make 1 cup versus a whole pot. Dishwashers with sensors and alerts. A raised elevated dishwasher. Dual dishwashers, maybe at different heights. Clear and large displays on all appliances. Making sure the appliances are energy efficient, easy to take care of, and of course having smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detector, CO2 detectors and alarms and fire extinguishers are absolutely necessary, but you may want to consider having more in these homes. So in conclusion, before we ask any questions, I just want to say that remember, we want to think about more than 90% of us are wanting to stay in our homes as we age. Trade professionals, as yourselves, are needing to make themselves aware and educated of all of the different mental and physical challenges to bring up and discuss with our clients. This can also be a great way to get new projects. Maybe you worked on a bathroom, now talk to them about their kitchen, or vice versa. And when you're talking about universal design, and think about all of the different appliance options. And I want to mention, as an additional resource, you can always go online to ADA for the Ability Disability Act, ada.gov, for more information. So I am going to open this up to anybody that is wanting to ask any questions, comments, or anything like that. Thank you for your time today.
Amazing presentation, Amy. Good job.
Thank you, Angela. I appreciate it. So in the chat box, do we have anything? Let's see.
Only a lot of compliments. A great presentation. Thanks, Amy. Does anybody have any questions for Amy? And of course, you see her information there. Do you mind sharing your email in the chat, Amy?
Yep, I will. So I will put my email, amy.gaeta@subzero.com. And if anybody needs anything, I'll give you my cell phone number. This is my private number.
Woohoo!
For any and all questions. But,
we've got it now, people. We've got our private number.
private number for all questions that you might have. And we represent Sub-Zero, Wolf, Asco Best, and Cove is the new dishwasher. But there's a lot of great products for universal design. I hope you'll think about this when you are talking to your clients, because it doesn't matter what the budget is, you can definitely incorporate a lot of different features in any space for aging in place.
And Amy, are you seeing a lot of backups and delays with appliances, or is that kind of leveled out now?
I think all appliance brands, cabinetry, a lot of different brands are still seeing that because it's still backlogged from months ago where production stopped for a lot of companies. I think it depends on their inventory. Like, we had great inventory for a long time on certain products, and now it's great, we're busy and we're selling a lot, but now we're running 2-3 shifts to try to keep up with the demand. So just, of course, being honest, some products you could get in a week and some you might have to wait 2-3 months, depending on what it is. And I think we're still seeing that. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's a good thing and a bad thing right now, but as long as you're making sure your clients have the realistic expectations about that, then you're good.
Great. Okay. And any final questions for Amy?
Everybody is ready for happy hour.
All right.
So
Well, before that, I would ask that you would all stick with us for a few minutes. We owe it to our sponsors who've done such a great job, and we apologize for technical issues and for not really introducing you as well to Amy. So sorry, but we appreciate you